negative painting. When you see that the subject is lighter than the background and you're painting with watercolors, you immediately understand that you need to paint around that subject. So this is a classic example. White flowers, they're not white in the center, but the edges are white. So what I had to do is paint all this green around them, being very careful and trying to recreate the shapes of those petals. That's the trickiest thing about negative painting. You're not actually painting the subject, you're painting around it, so you need to adjust your mind and see the edge and create that edge by painting away from it. This would be the most obvious kind of classic use of negative painting. White flowers or any light flower will be a subject that requires negative painting. So here's another one. This is from my class, From Zero to Watercolor Hero, that a lot of you I know took. So I explained there that, one of the ways to paint those white daisies is negative painting. And again, it's all in the details. You see how I painted those little details inside between the petals? So the more you train your eye to see those dark areas instead of seeing the white flower, the more accurately you'll be able to paint this. So this will be the first use of negative painting. The flowers don't actually have to be white. These are pink flowers. But again, because the subject is lighter than the background, I had to paint negatively around them. And then I filled in this space with the details of the flowers. And there are two ways to go about painting this. One way would be to paint the flower first and then paint the background. That's usually what we try to do. I noticed that this approach can be a little bit, it's easy to make a mistake, let's say, right, when we do this. Because everything is white, we're painting a pale pink flower on white sheet of paper. So it's hard we don't have a reference point, right? So it's hard for our eye to decide how dark to make all those shadows on the flowers because everything is white. So I found that it's easier to start with if you're painting light flowers, it's easier to paint the background around them, at least give it one wash, get rid of all this white paper. That gives you a reference point, and then you can better see the details and the shadows on the light subject. And this is another example. This is negative painting with, details on the flowers. And I totally messed up all the edges, but I was able to correct them by using white ink, and I found all those details. And even though the background is fairly dark, by doing this you can still get the details and you can get the contrast and create the highlights that you need. And the last example I wanted to show you is this peonies. The same principle, light flowers, dark background, and notice how dark the centers are, right? That's another thing about light flowers that sometimes confuses us. We think everything is light, everything is white or light pink or something like that, but they still have shadows, and those shadows can be pretty dark. And especially there inside where the staminar and the stalk is attached, these areas can be fairly dark, and it's important to have a reference point. So I was looking at this background and I was asking myself a question. Is this lighter or same as the background, or maybe even darker? And it's basically as dark as the background. And it gave me depth, to my flower, and it created the depth of space, and it helped me to describe the form, that the flower is not flat, but it has center that's deep down there.